Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Tales from a Sports Tragic. I have a very special guest, someone who I've worked with in the past, and someone who I really look up to. In terms of social media presence, because she's very unabashed, as in completely different from what she is normally in person. But I have Proma over here. Proma, thank you for being on the show.
I'm honored.
I would take that giggle as part of being honored and feeling honored. So, but thank you. I'm very curious to know this because I met you for work to begin with, and then we worked together for a while where I made life really miserable for you guys. So I apologize for that. But I'm assuming that was the first time you were working in sports, wasn't it?
That
Not
was the first time I was working ever.
okay. Okay, that's a harsh debut then. Okay.
Well,
But before
it started with King, the best view of the stadium of my favorite place in the world. So,
fair enough. When you say your favorite place in the world, the Salt Lake Stadium, when was the first time you went there?
the first time I ever watched went to the Salt Lake Stadium was Khan's farewell match. So, unfortunately and ironically, a Mohun Bagan match.
So
That was the
fair enough. I'll not waste time over here. I'll jump straight to it because I know I know this for a fact that you're obsessed about two things primarily. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I know about East Bengal and Roger Federer because again you transform into a completely different person when you're talking about those two uh, entities. So talk me through the East Bengal obsession to begin with. How did it start? When did it start? I'm sure before you saw them play live, I'm sure you were already an ardent fan. And after that, I read somewhere that you've seen a bunch of derbies in the stadium till like recently. You didn't miss one for a while. So talk me through that obsession.
So initially, I didn't even know who I was supporting or whatever because there was not really much of a choice. You either support East Bengal or you get ousted from the family. It was kind of like that. And so the first few years, I don't remember matches from from my childhood, but I remember the first impression was the Asian Cup final. So that left a huge mark. Like it felt like I was watching I know it sounds like a lot, but it felt like I was watching the Champions League final or something like that. It felt like an equivalent. And I was very fond of the Okoro, Musa, Douglas bunch during that, of course, junior.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the beginning of me supporting East Bengal for on my own. It wasn't an influence. I wasn't supporting it because I was told to support it. And yeah, so that started, and I watched all the matches on the TV whenever. But going to the stadium was a strict no. Like, my parents are pretty cool about a lot of stuff, but that's where they drew the line. Like, go watch tennis, go watch whatever, but no, you're not going to watch a derby, you're not going to watch East Bengal play. And even my brother, who's like super who basically introduced me into all of this, he was like, find someone else to take you, I'm not taking my sister there.
Okay.
So yeah, to the point where there was an AFC Cup match
Yeah.
in the Salt Lake Stadium, and like the fight reached like the pinnacle. It was the worst one of the worst fights I've had with my parents, where I wasn't allowed to go. And I pretty much decided, that's I think when I decided, like, no, it doesn't matter what I have to do, I'm going the next time.
Mm.
And so till then, I'd been to the stadium, I'd been to see the Oliver Kahn match. Then when Maradona came, where he looked like a tiny insect on the opposite end, and then Messi's debut as a captain at Salt Lake Stadium against Venezuela. And yeah, but I was still missing East Bengal's my first East Bengal match, which came against Taliganj Ogrokami, which East Bengal drew 2-2 and won the CFL. That was my first East Bengal
What
match
year
live.
was this? What year was this?
This was 2013.
But so describe. I have attended a bunch of derbies, and the experience back then used to be a lot different because I haven't attended one since I think since 2007 or something. It's been a while. But when you go in, as in, what is it like? Does the day start early preparing for the derby? And I'm sure it goes on till late talking about it for sure. But how does it start? As in, what's the process? Do you wear a East Bengal t-shirt or no when you go?
I wouldn't. I used to be scared after 2009
Yeah.
when the skirmish happened between the two. So after I brokered the deal with my family that I'm going to definitely go, you can't do anything about it, I stuck to not wearing the jersey, but I always had a red and yellow somewhere about me,
Yeah.
even if I did not. But actually, Derby days begin a lot sooner than going to the stadium. It starts at home,
Yeah.
where somehow coincidentally my mother would somehow always make chingri mach on those days
Yeah.
somehow, and that became like a thing that somehow it was never planned, but yet it was always. So wonder if my mom is a closet Mohan Bagan fan or not, but now it starts with not like with having Irish match on the day before the match, and I reach the stadium 2.5 hours before the match,
Yeah.
because it also serves as a mini reunion with my college friends.
Yeah.
I still go with the same bunch that I've gone from my first match.
Okay.
And my favorite thing is beyond the match. My favorite thing is not even the match. It's entering the stadium and like seeing the field for the first time on a derby day. It's hands down my favorite thing.
Fair enough. Which of the derbies that you have seen has been your favorite so far?
4-0 2015.
I wouldn't even ask. I mean, did you celebrate till late after that? As it, how does
It
it?
was
Yeah, I mean, you're basically surrounded by
I'm
people.
sorry, I said 2015 by mistake. It's 4-0 2016.
But when you are in a stadium, and apart from you mentioned your college friends who you used to go to matches with, and you still do, but there's so many other people who you'd be celebrating together. I mean, and most memorable in that sense, which was that the encounter in which, I mean, there were thousands and thousands of East Bengal fans who were celebrating together, and did you feel the best on that day, or was there some other occasion in which you were part of the bigger group and, I mean, it was just,
Honestly,
yeah,
the best encounter I've had was, I think, one of the most recent ones, where I used to come down. I used to be working in Guwahati and I used to fly down for every derby, every weekend match that East Bengal played. I was back at home.
yeah,
And there was this instance where I was in the line before the match. This was the match that Acosta was going to start for the first time in the East Bengal squad. And I was in line behind a rather elderly gentleman,
yeah,
and someone called me, and I said that it was a Sunday, and I told them that I'd come Friday night and I would be leaving Monday morning, and I mentioned something like I'm here only for the match or something.
yeah,
And the old man turned around and he was like, "You came just for the match?" And I was like, "Yes."
yeah,
And he semi hugged me and he was like, "I assure you Acosta is going to score a goal just for you." And it was a very endearing moment, like this stranger who has nothing to do with me suddenly found a familiar spirit with me. And
yeah,
in general, in the stadium, my favorite thing is no one cares, like who knows, who doesn't know, like you just start giving high fives and just start celebrating with people. It just becomes like a one big family, and it's one of the most endearing things about derbies for me.
yeah. I'm sure. I mean, bonding with people with a common interest in a particular sporting entity or as an individual can be extraordinary. It would go without saying, as in, it goes beyond words, nationality, everything else. So I'm sure that's insane. I'll come to the other person who I talked about in the conversation. But are there any other sporting entities from who you have just been really fascinated by? Is there any other sport that you're really fascinated by? You really follow it?
Actually, I thought I was a cricket fan until Sachin retired, and then I realized I wasn't exactly a cricket fan. I was just a very ardent Sachin Tendulkar fan. And it's actually interesting with Sachin because my association with Sachin comes before I ever started watching cricket. So when we were kids, my brother and I, he would have imaginary cricket matches inside in our rooms. There used to be no bat, there used to be no ball, and I had to be the audience, the spectators, and I had to make a sound with my mouth because I was playing the entire stadium.
Yeah,
And the match would inevitably be India is some 300 runs down, and Sachin is the lone man standing, and somehow, like, no score that could be covered in 50 overs, but my brother who used to be playing Sachin would somehow manage to score that, and hence Sachin is Superman, and hence we must worship Sachin Tendulkar. So
yeah. I mean, so it was
that
like East Bengal. This was passed on to you by your brother as well.
exactly, it was absolutely passed on to me, and Argentina, of course, also passed on to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're all. I started supporting all these people without knowing exactly what I was getting myself into,
Yeah.
but thankfully it grew on me. So
But when you say supporting, I mean, to what extent would you go? Say, for example, if there's a test match in Australia happening at, say, 4 a.m. in the morning in India, would you wake up to watch it, or would you reserve that only for the US Open semi-finals in tennis?
well, on my own now, yeah, like actually cricket or waking up in the morning, like you said, to watch test matches is a ritual that I shared with my grandfather.
Okay.
And up until the year he passed away, we maintained it sitting. It's one of my favorite memories of my childhood,
Yeah.
him making me up on the mornings, like, okay, time, get up, it's starting, they're getting up, and like just sitting on the couch on winters. Like Calcutta winters are not the most severe winters, but like it's one of the best memories. I remember, I think 2010 or 11, I remember again, like it's one of those years where we were in Haryana and we still woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning or something like that, huddled under like three blankets, but we caught the innings because I think again Sachin was there batting.
Yeah. And India
It's
would,
a Sachin oriented.
I figured that. And India would lose those, big
Yup.
top two wickets pretty quickly back then. So, yeah.
Click
I'm not
pretty early on.
because maybe Sehwag was there already and Sehwag and Akash Chopra had a good series, but we would be two down for pretty much nothing very quickly in Australia.
Yeah.
That's awesome to hear about your grandfather and how he kind of passed on this thing, and the two of you had a ritual. And now
Yeah.
finally come to the other half of the obsession that I continuously see audience to, like most of your other friends. But how did the Federer obsession start from? I mean, is there a starting point to it? Like I remember, yeah, I remember having a starting point to the Federer obsession. But do you remember?
I remember the first match I saw of Federer actually,
Okay.
and like again, sports is something that's always been on the background in the house forever.
Yeah,
It's just I started pretty late on. Actually, my interest started with a pigeon. I wouldn't support. I wasn't particularly interested in football, but we caught this white pigeon had ended up in my house,
hmm,
and I wanted to keep it. And my brother said if Argentina won the 2006 World Cup, he was like, we'll get to keep it. So I started supporting Argentina. Like I really started liking Riquelme at that point.
yeah,
So 4-5 is when it started. And no, my first memory of Federer's matches, Federer versus Safi in 2005 Australian Open, which Federer lost.
yeah.
But I don't know what it was that drew me to that match. But Federer lost the match, so ideally, I don't know what it was, but that was it. That match was it. I was glued for the entire match
Yeah.
until the last few games of the fourth set where I had to go for tuition. And I cursed that day still. I believe like if I didn't leave, he might have been able to wrench it out and we would have 21 slams.
Yeah.
Well, but yeah, but that's the starting point for Federer for me.
But 15 years of that, and especially, I need to ask you this. I promise I wouldn't take screenshots of your tweets or Facebook posts, but it seems like a very, at times frustrating, most of the time very, very, very passionate for sure. It seems like you transform into this different person. I mean, I've met you and I've known you in person, but you don't seem to be this abusive person which you transform into and Federer's playing. So, I mean, is that something which has started happening recently when you have kind of, given yourself a slightly more, like you've become more obsessed with him, or is it because of, I mean, just the way things are on social media where we express ourselves more freely, or is it a combination of both those factors?
Actually, I don't know. I mean, it's maybe because I have very little filter when it comes to Federer. I agree. Federer and East Bengal, I become quite a rude person. I wouldn't be friends with me the way I become about the two of them. But I think it stems from also I'm generally like I think I'm a bundle of many like fandoms,
Yeah,
and I think I'm a little extra about that. So people who I never speak to somehow think it's okay to tease me when Federal loses or East Bengal loses.
yeah.
So it just I think culminates into that. I anyway have low tolerance and people like to take a kick out of that.
So
So
more
I'm like,
reactive.
okay,
You get more
yeah,
reactive.
I react.
But
Yeah, I react pretty easily.
okay, fair enough. I have to ask you about this other thing as well. You see, I've done my research over here, or maybe I just remember things. But yeah, you
Because I tell you nothing.
yeah, I remember things at least. But it's very fascinating. You took this, and this is something that I would do multiple times in my life as well. But you took a sort of a sporting pilgrimage, didn't you? You went to Australia in 2018.
19.
2019 towards the Australian Open, amongst other things, and
Yeah,
you made your way into a Federer press conference, asked a
yeah,
question, went crazy about it. Talk me through that.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. I remember you being, I,
Kind of figure in like list of peak moments in life.
yeah, it's all downhill from there, isn't it? Like it was literally downhill from 30 seconds after it because I got kicked out after that.
But talk me through this Australia trip. Yeah.
No, so I'd been like, I was adamant about getting to see Federer. My point was first to watch Federer live, and I'd actually been toying with the idea of going to see the Dubai, like to go see him in Dubai because
Yeah.
it's easier, cheaper, all of it.
Yeah.
But that was before 2017 and 2018. Federer suddenly arrived, and it didn't. And suddenly he was a defending champion again,
Yeah.
and in 2017 and 2016 was a particularly hard year for me. And like I told you about my grandfather, so some of my, like my last few days with my grandfather was waking up, staying up really late to watch Euro Cup in 2016, and then waking up really early to watch Copa. They were happening, I think they were clashing for some time,
Yeah.
and he passed away like a few days after that.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I'm also very like superstitious when it comes to Federer and East Bengal, no loo breaks, sitting in like this if this is when a winner came or something like that. So 2015 to 2014, 2015 are two Wimbledons where I thought it would happen. He would win, and then it did not. So the entirety of those two Wimbledons, I sat with my back again, like to the TV, and my grandfather telling me each point how it's happening, but I couldn't bear to look at it.
Yeah.
And 2017, the Federer played Nishikori in the Australian Open, I think quarter final,
Yeah.
and it drained half my life force out of me. I went and puked after he won that match, and I decided, like, no, Dubai won't do it. It has to be a,
Grand Slam.
yeah, it has to be a tournament. It has to be a Grand Slam where he's a defending champion,
Okay. Yeah.
and he miraculously won the 2018 Australian Open too. And I realized, and I know Wimbledon tickets are harder to come by, and you have to camp out, all kinds of shindig attached to Wimbledon because it's Wimbledon.
Yeah.
So I decided it has to be Australian Open.
Okay. And how did you make your way into the press conference room?
So the first 4 months of 2018, I just spent writing articles, so that I would get bylines.
Yeah.
And because I did my research, I found out that you need to have at least 4 racket sport bylines. So I started writing badminton, I started writing squash, I like whatever it takes.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I got the accreditation for 3 days. I got to use it only once because I got kicked out after that because
Okay.
yeah. And
This was on a media
so the,
accreditation there. What was the question? Sorry, I mean, if you send me the clip, I'll see it again. But what was the question again? Why did
it was the worst question in the land of bad questions. So I had prepared myself 2 questions,
Okay.
and I had prepared myself. I was already like, shaking by the time like by the time he came. I even tried to leave because couldn't handle the idea. And it's like the room started glowing because God walked in. And so I had prepared a question about Murray retiring, and I had prepared a question about Federer returning to clay.
Okay.
And unfortunately, the two gentlemen right ahead of me asked those exact questions.
Okay.
And then the mic was in my hand, and like I either had to make up something on the spot, or I had to give up my one chance to ever talk to Federer.
Yeah.
So I asked him how Hopman Cup helped him prepare for Australian Open in as poorly articulated as possible. Like it couldn't have been worse.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was the way I asked him, it could have been a yes or no 20, like 3-second answer.
Yeah.
but he went on a went on to discuss that for like a good 50-55 seconds.
Okay.
And then I pretended to, then the media manager said that, now he's only going to be answering questions in German and French, so English, like English speaking journalists can leave for if you want.
Yeah.
I pretended to know German and French, and I nodded and I scribbled stuff
Yeah.
throughout the two, and then
Yeah.
yeah. So after that, I tried to talk to him outside, and Federer was actually being really nice, and he was talking to me.
Yeah.
But the media manager figured that this is a fan and not a like a very professional journalist,
Yeah.
and she came and she asked me to leave. And actually it's Federer who left, and I was getting yelled at. Nothing was really registering, but I know that woman was yelling at me. And
Okay.
then she took a photo of my accreditation.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I had a Palat moment. Federer was halfway down the corridor, and then he suddenly came back. He suddenly came back, and he just went, but it was really, really nice to meet you.
Yeah.
And then he left,
Yeah.
and the woman kept shouting, and I was like, finish screaming, yeah, yeah, okay, done. And I figured that, and then I got an email later at night saying, you approached a player, you're not allowed again.
I mean, the player
I
talked.
mean, okay, sure.
Yeah.
Like I had tickets for the next two matches, next 2 days, so
I think that's really. I think that's one of the best, fanboy moments that I've come across. Just generally, I talk to a lot of sports fans, but seldom do we manage to come across something this. I mean, I had a very chance encounter with Messi in Brazil. And I think you would
oh
have.
my god.
I mean, I was there as a journalist, and but I just was going mental writing, 8 to 10 articles a day. So I just walked up and I took the elevator to the media tribune, and no one stopped me. It was not a match day, but Messi and a couple of
Okay.
other Argentinian players were standing. I still have the autograph. I think it would come close to your. I think you would have reacted a little, maybe more pumped up than I did because
And maybe that's why you didn't get thrown out and I did.
it's true. I mean, I would have perhaps not got thrown out even with, I don't know. I mean, my biggest, maybe not even with Phelps. The biggest, and I'll ask you this, the biggest. So I'm a massive like Olympic Games fan, right? Like, say for
Yeah.
example, football wouldn't even be in my top five sports. I shouldn't say that I work in football, but just generally, I would stay up all night to watch NCAA races in swimming and NCAA athletics, things like that. So uh, Phelps is like this demigod in my head. Just I mean, for someone to be that incredible was crazy. And I used to live in Vasantkunj then, and I had gone somewhere. I think this is around the time that we were working together. And I came back and I saw this massive banner in front of JNU, which is on the way to Vasantkunj, saying that Michael Phelps was there one day before. And I was like, this is unreal. I mean, he was right here. This was my only opportunity to meet him. But have you had a similar experience where you could have met someone who you really look up to and you didn't, like being very close?
Yeah, Federer. Before. So
Okay.
earlier. Actually, so 2000, when IPTL used to happen, right?
Yeah,
I was in college back then,
yeah,
and Federer and Nadal played one year. I think it was 2015. And
yeah.
I was supposed to go. I didn't manage tickets,
Hmm.
and for a student, the tickets were pretty
Expensive.
like expensive as well.
Yeah,
And but I again, it was the same thing. If Federer was coming, I was going to see him. I didn't care how I would secure the tickets. I had it in my head that I would manage.
yeah.
So I think the match happened on the 13th of December.
Okay.
My college exam dates came out, and they were till the 14th of December. So I didn't buy the tickets. I didn't like even book myself tickets to Delhi. Forget about the IPTL tickets.
Yeah,
And but that was when the exam dates had come out,
yeah,
and not really when each exam was going to be.
yeah,
And 5 days before the Federer Nadal match happened, we
yeah.
got revised dates where my exams ended on the 10th.
Shit. Yeah, that must have hurt. Yeah.
You don't say.
To the
And
past.
back then, I did not know that Australia would happen. For me, it was my one shot to see
Yeah,
Federer play live.
yeah.
And I went away to Shantiniketan. I was so sad. I was like, I have to have some reason to not be around. I was on a trip, that's why I couldn't come. Like
So,
I just left for that.
I mean, I wouldn't even ask like, is there a dream dinner guest that you have or something like that? Because
I mean, actually, I've been asked this, Federer or Messi,
I mean, no, but I just
and
have a feeling that I mean, just for his entire persona, it might just be Federer, or will it be Messi? I know,
it
but
no, it actually will be Federer first because of, again, the whole person that he is
yeah,
compared to Messi, who's delightful too, but
yeah,
also because Federer can speak English, and
looks
I
like
started learning Spanish. So just so I think this is one of the first things I told you when we met.
yeah,
Um, and that, like, I had started learning Spanish that year because I was like, what if I bump into Messi someday? Am I not going to talk to him because I don't know his language?
true.
That shouldn't happen. So I had started learning Spanish back then, but
Very
it's still
approaching things, and I wish I was this, focused in life that I might come to someone who I really idealize and I should know their language. Fair enough, Proma. If there are five events, and I'll wrap up with this. If there are five events that you wish you were present for, and because you've talked so extensively about these three entities, maybe four actually. I'll put Sachin also. Sachin, Messi, East Bengal, and Federer. If there are five
yeah.
matches that you could have been there in person, because I really wish that you are there for everything that follows from now on. But what are these five events from the past that you would have, wished to?
um Wow. 2017 Australian Open final
Yeah.
against Nadal, the five setter.
Hmm.
Um, uh, East Bengal, I will say the Asian Cup final. And with Sachin, I'd say the actually not, I attended the last match he played in Eden,
Yeah.
but yeah, I would have liked to be in the Sharjah.
98. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's three. And again, I would have liked to be in Federer's first Wimbledon final, like the Philipposis match. I would have liked to be there.
Yeah.
And weirdly, ironically, 2019 Wimbledon final,
Ah,
because I feel I'm a different person since that day.
I know.
I'm dead inside. I can do take anything now.
Right. Yeah, that's a brave choice over there.
Mm.
I would have flipped in that match. I would just, yeah, it would have been incredible to see that match unfold like that. I've seen some, I mean, not too many actually, because I'm more of a sporting venues fan. I kind of go to venues irrespective if there's a match or not. But yeah, I wouldn't have taken like that to like
29.
that day. Yeah, I would have.
No, I'm just
But
curious
yeah,
about myself because I don't know, like the amount it affected me on TV. I'm very curious to know how I would have taken it
yeah,
in person,
yeah.
because I almost died in a first row match against Dennis Istomin. So I don't know how that would have happened.
Yeah, quite. I mean, you're realistic at least with your expectation. You know what would happen. So fair enough. Thank you so much, Proma. This is perhaps my best episode. I'm not kidding. This is you have
Oh,
proposed.
sure.
Yeah, I had wonderful. This is a wonderful experience talking to you. Thank you so much, and you keep.
Always.
I hope you get to visit many more Grand Slams with Federer's playing, in which by that I mean kind of Federer playing more as well. So I hope that happens.
Yeah.
Hope you stay
Unlikely, but yeah, hopefully.
around when Argentina wins a World Cup. I hate to say that I'm a Brazil fan, but
Oh, it's okay. You can say it. Say it like as many times. It's never gonna happen.
and I hope you never get to see East Bengal win another derby. I mean, that's not going to happen anyway. But
Ah, well, it won't happen because you know why? Mohun Bagan doesn't exist anymore.
it's okay. But thank you so much, Prama. This was absolutely wonderful. Thank you. Thank you again.
Always.